Nature is more than just the outdoors, right? To me, it's the blueprint. That's why it matters to me. It is the example that we should be looking to when we build, when we create things, when we try to think outside of the box. Nature has already done a lot of this for us. There's just so much to learn when you just go outside, when you look at what has already been created naturally, organically. And I think that's true in beauty, but it's also true when you think about systems. How do relationships build upon one another to create something meaningful? When you look at a leaf under a microscope, like the amount of perfection in one cell is just wild to me, and how many medicines we can come up with just by looking at, again, ingredients found in nature. It's the blueprint for how we should be building our world, really, not just the outdoors, but how do we build our relationships with one another? How do we build cities? How do we create this built environment, our infrastructure? We are trying to move nature out of the way. We are trying to build on top through. We're not building with nature, and that has been to our detriment. If we think more about the natural world and how we can grow alongside of it, grow symbiotically with it, I think we will be much better off. A world with much less waste, with more regeneration, and that's just more efficient overall. And I'm an economist by trade, so I think about optimization all the time. And I think nature is always optimal. It's always optimizing itself. You don't see waste. A dead leaf falls to the ground and it turns into soil. It turns into the ground itself. You see that cycle of life truly, and you don't see that in our built environment in the way that we build things. We don't consider life after we're done using something. With Solarpunk DC, we're an organization that thinks about how we can build a world where sustainability, technology, culture, and community can thrive with one another, not in spite of one another. It's also about food sovereignty and wellness sovereignty. It's about how do we have this environment around us that serves our individual and communal needs for health. That's why we cannot be separating ourselves from nature, right? We are all really one in that way. And in Solarpunk DC, we think about how can we build these systems where that is the priority. It's not just about conservation for the sake of it. It's about conservation as a need for our own health and well-being. Punk is about rebellion. Solarpunk is the idea that we can have things like renewable energy. We can have things like green spaces that actually produce food we can eat that's nearby and not like 500 miles away in a farm that we don't even know. Green spaces and food sovereignty, future-minded micro-mobility, e-bikes, e-scooters, things like that. We have community-driven governance, circular economies, renewable energies. How can we move away from polluting energy sources and use things that we already have and invest in those kinds of technologies? But we've seen them be very siloed. We don't really see those folks that work in those different spaces talk to one another, but they have to talk to one another to be able to build this world that a lot of us want. We just haven't really found a name for it. And so at Solarpunk DC, we work to educate folks on what this world could look like. We work to amplify the stories of folks who are already doing the thing. Urban rooftop farms. We have electric bike shops. We do storytelling. We will bring folks together and make sure that they're telling their stories. We bring together all these different people into one room and have them actually drive conversations that can build something really impressive. It's amazing to see people from totally different walks of life have the same vision for our city. How do we build systems where we can more easily rely upon one another, where we can truly have a village of people take care of a child, for example? Our systems are built for individualistic-minded people. America is very individualistic. Honestly, sometimes starting from scratch, we need to do that to be able to think more about people. We had a lot of apps that focus more on like sitting and swiping, and you're very much in your own cocoon, and you don't go outside, you're just like on your app. But I'm actually seeing a trend of same kind of like social networking apps that force you to be outside as well, that will require you to take a picture of where you're at and then go meet someone in real life outside. So we're seeing a little bit of a trend of technology meeting the moment in that way. There's a lot of talk about the growth of artificial intelligence, of AI, and how are we going to meet the energy demand for that without harming our communities. I hear the concerns of like the water resources and electricity resources that are used and how that can impact prices and lead to energy shortages. I think realistically, it's silly to think that AI is all of a sudden going to come to a grinding halt or is going to go away. It's not going to go away. And if we don't take advantage, if individuals don't try to harness it for our communities, it will still be harnessed by corporations and by governments. Probably not for things that we want. We need to be fluent in these technologies, and that will require more energy and more natural resources. But then that means we need to be advocating for cleaner energy sources and a way of building out that kind of energy deployment that doesn't impact our prices and our existing resources. I just think we are too smart and too creative for us to not have those solutions. I think this reminds me of the recycling issue. A lot of these big conglomerate companies did these campaigns to try to get individuals to take the burden of recycling. If we want to make large and lasting change, the problem needs to be addressed further upstream. It is the corporations that need to take much more responsibility for this. AI is not new. Everyone feels like it is because now we get to use it, but it's been around for a long time. So I think there's just a need for greater advocacy and greater accountability when it comes to these bigger corporations. And it takes work, but that's where community really comes into play, because organizing is really powerful, actually. Like, people forget the power that they have when they come together. I mentioned earlier, I'm not an outdoorsy person. I say I'm an outsidey person. To be frank, we just don't have enough fruit trees here in DC. When I talk about like infrastructure that we should be building that serves the community, things like that, where are the fruit trees? I'll just leave it there. You know what I'm talking about. Yes. And that matters so much more nowadays in an urban setting where people are just eating Cheetos all day. And not because they want to, it's because that is the most affordable thing right now. In places like Southern California or Sri Lanka or wherever else where you have fruit trees and you have farms that are down the street from you or community gardens down the street from you can get nutritional food. It's just that fills such an important nutritional gap in our communities. You know, urban cities are not doing it right now. In some places, that produce travels like from nowhere nearby. That travels like on a plane or like on a ship or whatever. Like, it comes from a different country in some cities, you know. And how long did it take to get there? How much nutritional value is left in that apple? Here we are in beautiful Washington, D.C. That's one of the reasons why Solarpunk DC means a lot to me, because of where we are. This story is true for a lot of urban cities, but DC is particularly interesting just because of what's happening here. People are becoming marginalized to a different level right now. We're starting to see more creative ways of resistance. And honestly, Solarpunk DC is one way that we've, brought together pockets of people and brought them a bit of joy just by connecting them with other people who have like-minded visions with what they want to see in the city. I'm really passionate about mycelium. I know that's like a very specific topic, but again, it kind of ties into all the other things we talked about. I am no fungi expert, but I saw Fantastic Fungi on Netflix, and I think me and like millions of other people just got turned on to mushroom. These neural networks that exist underground where they're actually sharing resources with one another. They react and respond and adapt when there are wildfires in an area, for example. They actually communicate with one another. These are like living cells, but again, these are fungi, and I think about how our brains work. I think about how our social connections work. They all mirror things that have already existed organically far before we existed. And so I think that's really why I find nature so fascinating. I think I'm more interested in how we are mimicking nature. We are nature. How our built environment should be mimicking nature as well.
So funny to be speaking about nature while we are like
smacking ourselves.
I have like 5 mosquitoes.
There's a balance that exists in nature that is meant to be. Now, humans do stuff that make that balance go out of whack. We are part of nature, and we should really work better to not be messing up that balance. The silence is something I have a hard time dealing with in the city. That's the reality of it. But that's where I think it might be just a function of how we see cities here as like protecting us from the outside world. Whereas in other places like Colombo or wherever else, that's not really the case. You're not seeing a city as a way to protect yourself from nature. That's so interesting, especially when you come from that mindset of like, how do we build for people? You're not thinking about how do we build with nature or for nature.
Is there anything else you would like to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, I love the idea that, you know, nature isn't just this little box of a concept. It's nature is us. That's weird nature. Nature is nature was here before us. It'll be here after us. Nature is the role model and the blueprint. We don't have to look far. We have to look within. It sounds a little cheesy, but really within as in the outside world, like Earth is truly perfect in every way. We should not look too far when we think about advancements that we can be making to make our world a better place. Solarpunk is an aesthetic, like an artistic genre, right? Like you see it in books. It's a sci-fi. Honestly, the e-bike uptake of this city is very impressive.
Yeah,
you know,
amazing.
The fact that an e-bike can replace a whole car is a game changer.
Yes.
Like,
what are we doing?
What are we
doing? A 2-ton metal box, right?
With one person
You
in
can
it.
enjoy the wind in your face.
It's true. And bugs, but that's
bugs.
that's besides the
Which
point.
I had like all over my skin.
Yeah, oh, I know. I